Okay, reading on. Uskinim Rabinki Blumi Yeshua, and many of the elders received it from Yeshua. Vekibel Eli Minchas Kinim Umi Pinchas, and Eli received it from the elders and from Pinchas. Ushmuel Kibel Me Eli Uveidino, and Samuel received it from Eli's court. Vedavid Kibel Mishmuel Uveidino, and King David received it from Samuel's court. V'Achiyah Shiloni Miyotze Mitzrayim Chaya, and Achiyah the Shilonite, or from Shiloh, who came out of Egypt, Ve'Levi Haya, and was a Levi, or from the tribe of Levi, Ve'Shamami Moshe, and heard the words of Moses, Ve'Chaya Katan Bimei, or Beyamei, not sure what that word is here, Bimei or Beyamei, Moshe, and he was young, either in the days or when Moshe was around. Ve'Chukubel Mi David Uveidino, and he received it from the court of King David. I guess that would make him actually very old. But anyways, okay, Vav. Eliyahu kibel me'achiyah Hashiloni uveidino, and Elijah the prophet received it from Achiyah the Shilonite and his court. Ve'Elisha kibel me'Eliyahu uveidino, and the prophet Elisha received it from the prophet Elijah and his court. V'Chodaya haKohen kibel me'Elisha uveidino, and Yehoyada the high priest received it from Elisha's Beit Din. Uzkayahu kibel Yehoyada uveidino, and Zechariah received it from Yehoyada's court. Ve'Hoshea kibel Mizcharia uveidino, and Hoshea received it from Zechariah's court. Ve'Amos kibel meHoshea uveidino, and the prophet Amos received it from Hoshea and his court. Ve'Yoshayahu kibel me'Amos uveidino, and the prophet Isaiah received it from the court of Amos. Umicha kibel meYoshaya uveidino, and the prophet Micah received it from Isaiah and his court. Ve'Yoel kibel meMicha uveidino, and the prophet Joel received it from Micah and his court. Ve'Nachum kibel meYoel uveidino, and the prophet Nahum received it from the prophet Joel and his court. Ve'Chabakuk kibel meNahum uveidino, and the prophet Habakkuk received it from Nahum and his court. Utzfanya kibel meChabakuk uveidino, and Zephaniah received it from Habakkuk and his court. Ve'Yirmiyah kibel mitzvanya uveidino, and Jeremiah received it from Zephaniah and his court. Uvarak ben Neriah kibel miYirmiyah uveidino, and Baruch the son of Neriah received it from Jeremiah and his court. V'Ezra uveidino kiblu mevarach uveidino, and Ezra received it from Baruch and his court. And friends, even though it seems that we're just going through the line of how the oral law from Sinai was transferred or transmitted, it really alludes to an interesting point. Because if you notice, it virtually goes through almost all of the prophets, stating that they also sat on a court. Which makes you wonder, just like the Rambam explains in his Mor Nevuchim, on what is prophecy and how is it attained. He basically teaches that anyone could aspire to this, and it wasn't limited to if you were a convert or not. That through your deep intellectual pursuits, fueled by your scholastic accomplishments, that this can produce an unfiltered connection with the Almighty, where you could also begin to understand the will of the Creator from a prophetic level. And the way it ties in here is that being that the biblical prophets were also a part of the chain of those who transmitted the oral law, it specifically states that they sat in courts, which most likely meant that their stature of a prophet only arose because of their previous status of a judge. Because one wouldn't think that a person with the ability to act as a prophet could also be eligible to judge the people from a rabbinical perspective. Okay, reading on. Beit Dino Shel Ezra, the Beit Din of Ezra, Hen Hanikra'in Anshe Knesset Hagadola. It was called the Men of the Great Assembly. Vechem, and they were Haggai, Zechariah, Umalachi. These names are pretty self-explanatory. Vedaniel, Hananiah, Mishael, Ve'Azariah, Unchemia ben Achaliah, that's Nehemiah, Mordechai, Uzrubabel, and Mordechai and Zerubbabel, Vecharbe Chachamin imachem, and many other wise men. Tashlum mea ve'esrim zakenim. There were a total of 120 elders. Ha'acharon michem chu Shimon HaSadik. And the one who came after, the last one here, he was Shimon HaSadik, Simon the Just. Ve'chu chaya michlal ha'mea ve'esrim. He was included in the 120. Ve'kibel Torah shebal peh mekulam. And he received the Torah from them. Ve'chu chaya kohen gadol achar Ezra. And he was the high priest after Ezra. Okay, chet. Antignas ish Socho, and Antignas, the man, the person from the town of Socho, uve dino kiblu mishimon asadik. And Antignas received the old tradition from Simon the Just, from Shimon asadik. Uve dino and his court. But Yosef ben Yoezer ish Serada, and Joseph the son of Yoezer from the town of Serada. Yosef ben Yochanan ish Yerushalayim, and Joseph the son of Yochanan from Jerusalem. Uve dinam kiblu me Antignas uve dino, and these men received it from the court of Antignas. Yeshua ben Prachia, and Joshua the son of Prachia, ben Itai ha'arbeli, and Nitai the person from Arbel. Uve dinam kiblu me Yosef ve Yosef uve dinam. And they received it from the court of Yosef and Yosef. So this is the court of Yosef ben Yoezer and Yosef ben Yochanan. Yehuda ben Tabai and Shimon ben Shatach uvei dinam kiblu mi Yeshua ben Itai uvei dinam. And Yehuda the son of Tabai and Shimon the son of Shatach received it from the court of Yeshua and Nitai. This is Yeshua ben Prachia and Nitai from Arbel. Shemaya ve'avtalim gerei sedek uvei dinam kiblu me Yehuda ve'Shimon uvei dinam. And Shemaya and Avtalion were righteous converts, and they received the tradition from Yehuda and Shimon and their court. Ve'chila ve'Shama uvei dinam kiblu mi Shemaya ve'avtalion uvei dinam. And Hillel and Shammai and their court received the tradition from Shemaya and Avtalion, the two converts and their court. Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai, Rabban Shimon beno shel Hillel, kiblu mechila uvei dino. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai and Rabbi Shimon the son of Hillel received it, the tradition from Hillel and his court. Okay, reading on. Tet. Hamishat talmidim chayu lo le Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai. The 5 students of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. Vechem gadolei chachamim. They were wise sages. Shekiblu mimenu. And they received the oral law from him. Ve'eluchem, and they were Rabbi Eliezer Hagadol, Rabbi Eliezer the Great One, Rabbi Yeshua, Rabbi Yossi HaKohen, Rabbi Yossi the priest, Rabbi Shimon ben Netanel, Rabbi Elazar ben Arach, Rabbi Akiva ben Yosef, Kibel me Rabbi Eliezer Hagadol. And Rabbi Akiva, the son of Yosef, he received the tradition from Rabbi Eliezer the Great One. Yosef aviv ger sedek haya, and his father Yosef was a convert. Rabbi Yishmael and Rabbi Meir ben Gera Sedek. The Rabbi Yishmael and Rabbi Meir were both sons of converts. Kiblu me Rabbi Akiva, and they received the tradition from Rabbi Akiva. Vegam kibel Rabbi Meir v'chaverav me Rabbi Yishmael. And also Rabbi Meir and his friends also received, or his colleagues also received the tradition from Yishmael. Okay, Yud. Chaverav shel Rabbi Meir, and the friends or the colleagues of Rabbi Meir were Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Nehemiah, Rabbi Elazar ben Shamoah, Rabbi Yochanan HaSandelet, Rabbi Yochanan the sandal maker, Shimon ben Azai, Rabbi Hananiah ben Tarfon, V'chen kiblu chaverav shel Rabbi Akiva. Also Rabbi Akiva's colleagues also received the tradition, Rabbi Eliezer Hagadol, from Eliezer the Great One. V'chaverav shel Rabbi Akiva, and the colleagues of Rabbi Akiva were Rabbi Tarfon, Rabbi Shel Rabbi Yossi HaGalili, the teacher of Rabbi Yossi from the Galil, Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar, Rabbi Yochanan ben Nori. Okay, Yud Aleph. Rabban Gamliel Hazaken kibel me Rabban Shimon Aviv. Rabbi Gamliel the elder received it from Rabbi Shimon, his father, beno shel Hillel Hazaken, the son of Hillel the elder. Rabban Gamliel beno kibel mamenu, and Rabbi Gamliel's son received it from him. Rabban Shimon beno kibel mamenu, and Rabbi Shimon's son received it from him. Rabbi Yehuda beno shel Rabban Shimon zeh, and Rabbi Yehuda, the son of Rabbi Shimon, hu chanikra Rabbeinu Hakadosh, the one we call, or the one who's called Rabbeinu Hakadosh, our holy rabbi. Vehu kibel me'aviv, he received it from his father. Umer Rabbi Eliezer ben Shamoah, and from Rabbi Eliezer ben Shamoah. Umer Rabbi Shimon Havero, and Rabbi Shimon and his colleagues. Okay, Yud Bet. Rabbeinu HaKadosh liber ha-Mishneh. Rabbeinu HaKadosh, he compiled, he put together, he joined the Mishnah. Umimon Moshe Rabbeinu ve'ad Rabbeinu HaKadosh, from Moshe Rabbeinu until Rabbeinu HaKadosh. This again, Rabbeinu HaKadosh is talking about Yehuda Hanasi, Yehuda the prince, lo chivru chibur shem lamdim oto berabim b'Torah shebal peh. That till Yehuda Hanasi, there was no one of us who ever compiled it to teach it to the public, this oral law. Eila bechol dor v'dor, but rather in every generation, Rosh Beit Din or Navi, the head of the Beit Din or the prophet, sheyeh be'oto chador, the prophet of that generation, kotev le'atzmo zikaron, he will write for himself. Kotev le'atzmo, he will write for himself. Zikaron bashmuot sheshama merabotav. All that he remembered that he heard from his teacher who taught him. Vechu melamed al pei barabim, and he would teach this verbally to everyone in the public. Vechen kol echad vechad, and everyone, every single man, kotev le'atzmo kifi kocho, would write for himself as much as he would have strength to. Umechilchotecha, and the halachot kebo sheshama, like he heard. Umidravim shenit chadshu, and the new ideas, the new concepts. Bechol dor v'dor bedinim shelo lemadum, regarding laws that were not passed by, communicated by the oral tradition. Mipi hashmoa ela meida mishlosh esre midot, and these laws weren't communicated by our oral tradition, but rather we understand them through the understanding of the 13 principles, as were accepted by the Great Sanhedrin. And it was always like this till Rabbeinu HaKadosh came on the scene. Now, that's one thing I should touch on here before we go on. Now, there's one thing that people have to understand when referring to these 13 principles. Now, first of all, these aren't the Rambam's 13 principles. His 13 principles, as you know, are the 13 principles of faith. So we shouldn't get confused on that one. The 13 principles he's referring to here is the 13 principles of Rabbi Yishmael that were really derived from the 7 principles of exegesis of Hillel. But anyways, there are 13 principles of extrapolating halacha from the text of the Torah itself. And no, this does not include the words of the prophets. It's interpreting the Torah with the Torah. But this, the Yud Gimel Midot, is really a whole video in itself that I have to work on. But I'll explain the first principle, probably the most popular one, known as a Kal V'chomer. Literally a light and heavy. For example, if your mom told you, don't waste your money on a candy bar, and you then go and listen to her in the sense that you don't buy one candy bar, but you buy a case of them, this would fall under the principle of a Kal V'chomer, that the heavier transgression would still be prohibited because of the lighter one.